Okay, so I had some more things I wanted to talk about with the Donovan Mitchell trade pertaining to stuff kind of around the trade, I guess. I guess we can start with the Knicks. To me, the big thing with the Knicks, and you can find the reports of did they offer Barrett and did the Jazz truly want him? I mean, there's been enough reports back and forth on that at this point to where I'm like, yeah, it seemed like it was definitely a possibility that Barrett could have been moved. But really what it came down to me is that Cleveland just had the asset in Colin Sexton that they did not covet as much as the Knicks coveted Barrett, right? It was a lot more to ask New York to trade Barrett than it was Cleveland to trade Sexton as well as Markkanen, right? And then you include all the draft picks, and that is what it is. And it's been said already, like Cleveland is probably in a better position to make the all-in trade than New York would have been, right? Now, with that said, because I have seen a little bit of with Knicks talk on the internet, like, this is a win for the Knicks, dodged a bullet, whatever. I don't think this is a win for New York. I think you can be bummed that you didn't get Mitchell and also be like, well, given the price, I guess, okay, you move on, right? With all that said, from Utah's perspective, should they have taken a Knicks offer, which it seems like it could have been RJ and let's say quickly and three unprotecteds, it seemed like it was going to be very tough to get Barrett and Quentin Grimes from the Knicks, right? And then whatever contracts need to be included, Evan Fournier's, whatever, to make it work. Would I have rather had that, or would I have rather gotten what I got from Cleveland if I'm Utah? I mean, I would rather have RJ than Sexton, even if, like, Sexton has scored more points on better efficiency than RJ, but I think RJ on a different team with better spacing and giving him more offensive sets to work with besides just pick and rolls up top will lead to him being a better player than Sexton, and on top of like way higher defensive potential. And I still think RJ's got like passing potential that hasn't all the way come out yet. If you remember with how people were talking about him coming into the NBA, of course I can be wrong here. Again, Sexton's just a flat out better scorer than RJ has been so far, and also he's much cheaper than RJ. Does that mean I think Utah like made a mistake? No. I mean, I think it's very difficult to make a mistake when they've got Sexton on, I would say, a bargain contract, or he could also be an asset in a future move. The same thing with Markkanen. Like, I get it. And the picks are the picks. And they're also pretty distant picks, and Danny Ainge has already proven that he's willing to wait around for draft picks. It is a little tough to see how Cleveland is not going to be awesome for pretty much the entirety of this decade, but you never know. I mean, as of right now, Donovan Mitchell is on a 3-year contract because of that player option that he's going to most likely turn down in the 4th year. Now, another thing that's popped up with the Knicks is you wait for the next one, right? And I've already seen it on Twitter a little bit. SGA is the one that the Knicks internet has their binoculars on. Look, if you do a little bit of digging, SGA likes his spot in OKC. I mean, there's a press conference, there's an exit interview at the end of last season where he's like, yeah, that we understand the direction that we want to go in, and we're excited about where we're going. The general vibe that I get is that SGA is cool in OKC. Also, just while I'm here, because, you do see the whole, like, OKC is wasting SGA because they're shutting him down in seasons or whatever. I mean, the dude has had ankle injuries. I don't think it's a matter of like, hey, just go sit down and don't play. But while I'm on that and thinking about for the Knicks or some other team who could be like, well, we have the assets to get the next star who wants out, maybe I could do a video on this where I dive into it more. I did a quick scan, and I don't know who the obvious next one is. I mean, the candidates were Mitchell, who has now been traded, Beal and Dame, both of them agreed to gargantuan contracts. And so now as I'm scanning, I mean, sure, there are some really good players who are on shorter contracts. So I guess just based off of that, you're forced to have at least a moment of like, okay, I noticed that. Like the biggest one right now is probably Jalen, but I don't really think Jalen would want to leave Boston. Another really good player on a shorter deal is Siakam, but I kind of feel the same way. Like, do I really think he would want to bounce from Toronto? My guess is it's going pretty okay there. So if you want to do the whole, well, the Knicks didn't move the stuff because they've got the stuff for the next one, I can't find the obvious next one right now, man. But even as I say all that, most likely within the next 12 months, another big name guy is going to change teams. I mean, there was a moment of time this offseason where we thought that DeAndre Ayton was going to be involved in a trade that involved Kevin Durant and possibly Ben Simmons and whatever the hell else was going to happen, right? So for what all that means, I don't know. Anyway, as far as that Lakers rumor of they could get in on the Mitchell thing and be the third team and get some group of players between the two teams, well, clearly that can't happen, but I would imagine that the Lakers can be towards the top of the list of teams who could try to get some of those guys off of the Jazz. But then you start doing the whole, well, it's the 2 picks, the 27, 29. and Westbrook's contract. Mike Conley, Jordan Clarkson, Bogdanovich, Vanderbilt, Rudy Gay, the whole group. I don't think any of those guys are worth any of those picks individually. Even if I do think someone like Mike Conley could be really good for the Lakers, maybe you just do it anyway. And there's always, not always, but there's usually some sort of meeting in the middle there. I do still like the heel Turner one more. Don't know if it's going to happen. As far as some teams who were rumored for Mitchell besides the Knicks that did not get him, there was the Wizards for a little bit there. I don't really know what the Wizards' offer would have been because they've got picks that are already locked up in protections over the next 4 seasons. And when you look at their young guys, none of them compare to RJ or Colin Sexton. So, I mean, like Johnny Bryant, you could be awesome. We don't know right now. I still like Rui's potential as an inside scorer, but it's got to happen first. I do think the Wizards being in these rumors at least a little bit, though, is a sign of how they want to operate over the next couple of years, which I think makes sense given the contract they gave Beal. As far as Miami, the Heat's offseason, let's see, they lost out on PJ Tucker to Philly. There's a report, which I don't know if it's true or not, but it says that Miami never made an offer for Donovan Mitchell, which, I mean, it's kind of weird how little we heard about that, given how much talk there was about Hero for Mitchell, like the second that Miami got eliminated by the Celtics, right before or right after Jimmy Butler almost ripped my heart out. But speaking of that series, given how Hero played, maybe that just hurt his stock too much. And of course, Miami from a draft pick standpoint couldn't compete with these other guys. I think the Heat are another team to look at when you're thinking about some of those guys on Utah. I think Vanderbilt fits in with their culture beautifully. They probably could use some more shooting. Bogdanovich would be a great fit there. The Raptors were talked about a little bit for Mitchell as well. I feel like they are still in a position to go all in, similar to the Knicks. They've got all their picks. You got Achua, you got Anunoby, you got Gary Trent, all good players. And I'm not saying they should shop any of these dudes, but if somebody becomes available, I think they've got the ammo.